Good morning. This is the Site Plan Review Committee meeting, September 18th, 2018. The first site plan on the agenda is 243 North Shore Road. Received a call that will be continued till next week. And next site plan is 48 Flint Street. We have 400 Ocean Avenue, site plan for 400 Ocean Avenue.
I'm going to let Katie do the honors here this morning.
Yes, I think the reason that we're back is because the project recently received approval from the Design Review Board. And we have the site plan here, not a lot has changed since the last time we were here. The building is still the same, the traffic circulation is still the same, the utilities are generally still the same. So I don't think we have a lot of new information to present.
I think the main issue is, you went before the Revere Beach Design Review Board, that's correct? Yeah. And there were some issues with the treatment of the facade, especially on the plaza level. What we can do to enhance that with different materials rather than have drive it there or stucco. Maybe just on the first level, on the pedestrian level of the bridge. And some accents like awnings or horizontal architectural elements. So I know your architect is not here, so.
I think I can speak to that. We reviewed all that with the Revere Beach Design Board. There is some cementitious surface area. Most of the facade is metal panel. There's some cementitious, but it's a very high grade of application. It's not the same detail that you're looking at Vanguard, for example. It's something that Marriott has used consistently on a number of their projects. They also improved the design. And so the architects have a really high level of confidence in the application as being a long-term, durable solution. It's not dry. It's a different sort of cementitious application. They obviously, and it is a lane screen, they obviously will be more definitive on what the detail looks like. I didn't really come prepared to deal with that this morning because they went through that. The architects were out and attended with the Revere Beach Design Review Board. The other thing that we dealt with was the so-called beacon light at the northeast corner of the building, which has now been redesigned. And they gave us the approval. We were close enough on the solution of all these things, so that they basically gave us the green light, the approval, with the understanding that we will make some minor tweaks to the design and that we will build a mock-up on the site before we actually proceed with construction of the exterior. So we'll have a chance for another look.
How much of that material of the building facade will be the cementitious material?
I'll have to get back to you on that.
Yeah.
I'd say 30-35%. It may be higher than that. But
On all sides?
Well, most of the metal panel is on the front facade, the north facade, and the south facade. Less so on the west facade, which is actually facing the station, and not really. We've made some revisions to the presentation of those large surfaces to break the scale down, to provide some theatrical lighting. The mayor had some comments about that elevation, and we are going to break the color up to reduce the scale and put theatrical lighting on. So at night, you've got it's basically creates hot spots. It's not a consistent lighting. Just want it to have some theatrical character to it, and they were fine with that. Likewise, on the front of the building, there'll be some additional lighting at grade, creating hot spots that go up vertically. One of the issues there is the fact that Marriott's very sensitive about exterior lighting that actually shine into the windows. So we've run all this by Marriott, they're good to go. We've run it by the Revere Beach Design Review Board, they're good to go. And we'll build a mock-up for everybody to take a look at before we actually start. Which was something we would do anyway. Yeah, it's just, it's good practice. But we also want you guys to be able to see it, touch and feel. And we did this, as you and Benny recall, at 6:50, so it's the same procedure.
Yeah, so, I mean, we can go forward with the site plan review letter, finalizing that, getting that updated. But one of the conditions will be that we meet one last time, not to belabor this, with the architect and do a mock-up of these materials, and, so we're all on the same page.
And we would do that on site.
Yes.
Do that on site.
But before that, we need to see what these materials are and how they blend in with the other materials. So if any kind of examples of that cementation material and color
We've got that.
coordination.
We actually presented that to the Revere Design Review Board. They're happy to show you the same thing.
Yeah, that's all we asked for. And that, the west facade of the building, which is two blank walls, that lighting effect should help that, tone that down. a little
And I
bit,
can send you.
Soften that.
I can send you a rendering of that.
I'd take either that or a razor.
I was going to shoot the dog with my wife.
Yeah.
Is 400 the official address?
And then the plaza level facade on that first level, I'm sure that's going to be a lot different. That's what we want to see, because that's where a lot of activity is going to take
Well,
place.
we have as much glazing along as we possibly can.
Yeah.
There are certain limitations because we're within 5 feet of the property line. Redgate did not have that issue because they actually own. So
Yeah.
we're limited by two things. One is a 25%
Unprotected openings.
protected openings, and then the other is that some of what backs up to that facade is food service, servicing Starbucks and food service operation. And you don't want to be looking into a kitchen. And we've explained all that to the as well. And Marriott has been through all that. It's not perfect. It'd be nice if we could have more glazing, but we're bound by the code. But I think even more importantly, by the back of the house,
Yeah.
food service preparation.
But the treatment of those areas that aren't glazed, could, those are going to be metal panels, or there's some other material.
I'll have to show you
All right,
the
so-
elevations.
Yeah, we'll close this out except for that. That's one thing that I know Bob O'Brien and the Beach Design Review Board and the Mayor's Office want to be absolutely sure of, and supportive of, how that treatment of that facade on the plaza level and in the Ocean Ave facade. Those are the two main facades. So we'll go ahead and issue the site plan review letter, and we'll schedule another meeting just with you and your architect on that. Those other issues.
My preference would be to maybe tap them in by phone. They're out in Cincinnati,
Other than Cincinnati.
so we'd have to fly them in. We did fly them in for the Revere Beach Design Review Board. I could do it again, but maybe just as easy to take an
But if they can give you more definitive renderings that more specifically show what those materials are and how they will look, and it's hard to get that over a PDF.
Well, these materials.
Yeah. Materials. And right, maybe we could coordinate that meeting over the phone. And that would be held up in my office, Bob O'Brien, myself, and the building inspector.
right on the cusp now of closing out construction financing, which is obviously why the letter is important. And, but for site plan approval, I think we need to get to our GMP, guaranteed maximum price contract, with Earl and his general contractor. All the 100% documents are in with the building department now for review.
Engineering and fire also.
I don't need your architect, but we should have a meeting at my office, bring your fire alarm and sprinkler companies, and we'll go through the plans. So, fire alarm plans, if this is what's going out for construction, I don't want 90%, I want complete documents. So the plans and specifications, so we can go through what you're requiring in the specifications and look at the plans.
Likewise, Paul, if we could wire in the architects by phone.
That's fine, as long as we get a good set of plans, I don't necessarily need the architect.
There shouldn't be any surprises.
Okay.
Sorry.
Let you go intent to that. That'll be, site plan review will be on, all right.
Do you want any more?
Yeah, can I have a set,
Do you
please?
want-
Actually, do you have
I have a full-size set. Or I can send you
That's all right,
PDF.
PDF it.
Katie, I'll take a
Yeah,
second.
PDF is fine.
The latest.
It would have been with the building permit.
Okay, next site plan is for the PCR maintenance facility on Revere Beach Boulevard. Good morning, make yourself comfortable. What's this? PCR maintenance facility. Yeah, they.
Oh,
That's fine.
That's the inside. I think they already filed. They already, the main though, but I don't know. Is this on the other side over there?
Yeah, where the police station is.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is an update. The whole permitting process will be under the state, it won't be our local building department for this project. But they're nice enough to show us an update of the plans after our discussions last time we met. So, no. Yes, Simon.
This is Julie from my office, assistant department manager, Jim Flaherty, the architect, and you know the whole.
Yeah.
So the reason we're coming before you again is that we met, as we started the project, we began the project, there's a demolition permit from the state now. But we met with the state police, and there were some issues with the location, basically, of the fuel station. And I know that the deputy chief here is very interested in that because of his purview. So we wanted to give you show you the sketch plans before we go to finalize the plans, and spend a lot of time doing that. What we're going to do is revise the whole plan. What we've done, Jim will take over from me, but the fuel station was in here. With two reasons that wasn't a good idea. It was right next to the generator. And in this area of the building here are the cells for the prisoners. So if we had an issue with the fueling station, there'd be a problem. So what we've done is we've moved it out here. But the net result of that is that we've had to push this wall, I think 19 feet altogether, Kevin. Which is fine because it's DCR property, it's all their property. So we're going to make the yard bigger in order to do this.
Is that
So
a retaining wall, Simon?
It is a retaining wall, yeah. It's a very high wall here, but then it steps down as the grade comes down. And so I think it's actually a better location
That's
for the
much-
fuel station.
That's actually where I asked for it
Yeah.
initially.
You're kidding.
I got some resistance, yes.
Is this where the wall is now here?
That's approximately where the wall is on the drawings that we originally submitted.
Okay, so I'll have to review this a little bit, because there's a water line that's in that walkway that connects these two.
That's part of the project is to relocate that water line. So we're working on it. Actually, the way it's shown may not quite work out. We may have to redo that, but we're aware of it.
We may have to jiggle some things. I know that there's a power pole or a utility pole somewhere in here, because I saw it. I was on the other side at 650 at this curve, and need to confirm where that pole is.
It's actually
So there's one here,
like here.
Yeah, but then there's one, and it might be, I think there's one,
right here on the wall somewhere.
I think there's one further down.
In the walkway, almost. Looks like here.
Yeah.
Which is gonna be, if there's a walkway, it's like here somewhere.
So I'm hoping we dodge that. And what I'm going to show you today is we have an elevation of this wall the way it was before, and we're proposing some alterations to this end of the wall. For that matter, I think it was just too tall, not necessary enough in some places, but a little bit taller in terms of screening view. And then we've done some things in the front, and I'll take you through that for, again, screening view from this side. The state also, the barracks, the police, in addition to that, this is sort of a captured field of parking. And before we had a gate here, you can see where the gate was, where the curb cut was previously. There was one there. There was one here. But this was just all sort of a free-for-all. Now the state, or the police want rolling gates in these two ends. So that's a small thing to say, but it creates the tricky little business when you've got this thing and poles and the gate assemblies themselves. I had to study the truck movements, if you will, which are very different, because when this was here before, it was like a gas station. You drive through, you fuel up, and you leave. Now you're going to end up with, depending on which direction you come from, if you come from this direction and out and on your way. But I had to study, it was about 5 different size trucks, some of them long, some of them with diesel fuel tanks on both sides. And there's a limitation for the hose coming off of this thing, as you know. So the big guys are going to, that one particular truck will have to approach it potentially one way to fill one fuel tank and find the opportunity to get back to it to fill another. But
Jim's done all the calculations for all the vehicles that they have to be able to access thing and the turning radii and so forth. And the good thing about this plan is it separates what the state police wanted. It separates their operation from the DPW operation. Because not DPW, DCR operation. Because before there was an overlap, so you'd have prisoners coming in here and salt trucks driving next to them. It wasn't a good idea.
And there's been conversation, the DCR's expression about in the winter months, salt, road, all those issues, about a lot of these gates potentially being left largely open just because there's going to be stuff happening. I don't know exactly all those issues, but as we start to go back and finish on one thing, to do this, I had to reverse the fuel and the gas filling side to this just to be able to make the trucks not force that wall any further. That'll be a small change if you're paying attention to the way that this is currently designed.
Where are garage aids?
Well, there's 3 of the larger trucks there and the 3 smaller ones slip in there.
All is basically outlined.
Right, just bang, 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 bang. There's a gas meter.
These
that's
are
in
high
there.
bay garages, and then these are low bay.
Those are low. Salt shed.
And my problem is you also have like a room in the basement over here, coming out from like a fuel station. So there's a lot of reasons why this makes a lot more sense for the fuel station to away
Yeah.
from the facility.
And connect, I'm sorry.
What's that? The second level is
There,
No,
this,
no, but
this is a lower
yeah.
level. There is an upper level that's smaller, this footprint, and I have the big drawings if you need them, but largely a footprint that's about like that.
These
This
are,
runs
these
all
are
the way.
like double height bays, Frank, and then you come up to a mezzanine, you go up to the second level on this front section.
Yeah, so these zones over here where these 3 vehicles are, they're all high.
So it's single story on the beach side, but then when you look at it from the backside, it's double story.
So the other thing the state asked for is if they were responding to a call that's down there, they didn't want to leave and go this way, to turn around to go down there. So we have a pedestrian walkway through here, and this is basically the same design conceptually as it was last time previously, and I got the drawings. They're large, but we can look at them if you'd like. And I just sort of moved that further over. We have not had time to check the grades. I don't know how different this might be from what's over here, because I don't really know how different these two starting points are. But what the police would like is to have the ability to, as an emergency vehicle, to zip through here and go straight to deal with the issue. So this becomes something that has to be designed not just as a walkway, but signed and constructed as if it's going to have wheels on it. Yeah, this is,
Talking about a full curb cut with a apron for a guy.
and then of course, I did this focus on the backside, but it occurred to me there's a couple of things that are different from the scheme before. This curb cut was over, I'm sorry, this crosswalk was like over here somewhere. But because of their notion of having a car under alarm, prudent thing would be to shift the curb cut to the other side. So
Maybe
it
we just
actually,
put do not enter signs on it, and then the police break the law. Police cars only, I don't know if you can do that, yeah. Yeah, the thing is, if we put a gate there, it's gonna slow them down, and the whole idea is for them to get to wherever they're going fast.
That's just sign.
Yeah,
Because they currently come up through this way, and if they're able to go up. Right.
so while all these things are going, now I have more gates. And we had what I would describe as a very tall and heavier, if you will, expensive wall in the front. And in our thinking process, the gates that we had before were custom. There were two of them. They were big, heavy, man-made. But I started doing research all over again and take you through our thoughts at this point. And you can see the landscaping here that I'll get to in a minute. But you'll also see sort of this greenscape that was not there before, including this little pocket. These were on the drawings before, but not this in this area. And the idea is if we can go with a handsome fence, if you will, by a company such as this, recommended by our landscape architect, that also has the capacity of doing these gates, it's going to be a lot easier and even more economical for us. And also just from an aesthetic view of seeing this, all these elements all pick up the same sort of appearance. They also have a controller section, this little square that you see right there. And each one of these details is a controller. And typically that controller would sit on a little pedestal. This is one of them right now. But given all our stormwater issues, the idea that I've got is that these should be raised to some point. Maybe not necessarily as high as the tank is, because that thing, the base, I think, is 2 feet above the 100-year floodplain.
Platform.
But at least maybe to the 100-year flood. There's a bit of research, but my point is I don't think we should just leave it down on the dirt or down on the paving and let the waters come through, short out all the electronics, and be in trouble. So I'd like to try to raise that up. And in the spirit of that, these are all sort of relevant to the issues that we're looking at along this front. If this is more or less a section through the type of fencing that we're sort of looking at here, the other interesting thing that this does is when you look at the spot grades along the sidewalk out here, they vary. I forget what it is, but from end to end, it's only about 9 inches or more. But because of stormwater management inside the paving, and we have a storm management structure that's in the ground here to sort of hold stormwater and shorten, reduce the flow, and immediately sort of hold it, dissipate it. We can't do much about it. My point is these grades aren't the same as out there. These grades have to do whatever they have to do slightly to do it. And you're within 6 to 9 inches of being the same in here, which which is more or less what this little sketch shows. And if we have about a 2.5 foot planting bed along this entire strip, and what I think is a pretty nice fence, that might be pretty good. And down here, that dimension is more like 1'9". So I'm suggesting we just ease the level change between the paving on that side and the sidewalk this side, and have another pocket of vegetation over there. We also, and I can show them to you, but they're in a big heavy roll of drawings, but you'll probably remember. And we talked about them a minute ago, Julie brought them up, the way the police used to use this ramp that came up here. If you remember, the ends of those ramps, they were large stone structures, and they had shapes on them in a manner very similar to what you see there. And the idea is that we place these elements on both sides of these entrances along Ocean Ave, which I think are a handsome recollection of what was there before. And they also have a way of screening this kind of thing, because that thing is going to end up having, I think, should be raised in the air to some elevation. So it's just it's a nice historic.
The idea here is to completely screen this with some arborvitae and that wall, so this section of the tent you won't see from the outside of the side.
So these things, what are you referring to? Are these gate controllers?
Yes.
These are gate controllers. That little
So you're
pad,
gonna raise them to, so if it's a gate controller, is it via break a beam type, or is it, how do they
no,
work?
there's an element on the gate
Yeah,
that is, if you will, like a chain or a horizontal
Yeah.
element,
yeah.
and it engages this controller. And
Okay,
typically,
so that's just a gate controller. So how do you operate the gate?
this is something that we're going to have to talk with you about.
That's
I haven't quite
As long as
gotten
you
to
got it
the,
on-
no, I'm
it's on
showing
your
you the
list
big
somewhere
picture,
down
but I
there.
know that there's, the controller is recommended because they work with this particular fence contractor all the time. So and I've already spoken with them, they're actually down in Georgia. And I've asked him about raising that, because I'd like to get it up. He says, no problem. Depending on how high you want to raise it, the fence might have to get higher, because there's a limit to where this rod would be that's connected to the gate. But if you imagine right now, that little gate is only about this tall, and the cable that they control the gate with is down here. But I think we're going to be wise to raise that up, and, even if the controller ends up being higher. Right. And I don't know if they show, sure, this little element that you see, I think that little horizontal element down there slips right through this controller element, and that's what pulls it back and forth. This thing's only like a 30-inch square concrete pad,
I know exactly
but
what you're
if you
talking about.
imagine raising that up, it's going to look awful weird and strange, but I think it'll look much better if it's obscured behind something that recalls our historical past. I also see this relative to the drawings that we submitted previously. This is the old wall moved over here. I can't speak for the grades, because the grades may well have to change, but, they're in the same spirit. In blue, that's the top of the fuel tank that's shown in the plan right there. And so I'm just looking at it, altering the top of this, if you will, but the main thing is just to change that pattern and obscure that view coming down the street from that direction. And then when you realize that a person is walking down here, and in some ways this, trucks, the wheels for trucks are way down there. This is like overkill, so I'm just saying we'll take a little bit of this off, but we definitely need to move that up, I suggest, in that area. And then if you look at the elevation right here, the suggestion for the view in that area was based on elements such as that lined up, and you can see in blue sort of the profile of where that tank is. Granted, it is some distance away, but just an economical and pleasant, I think, way to go about the screening. The height at the end of this wall on the side is down here, so you can see it's sticking up another 2.5 feet or so above that. Actually, higher than that. It's only about 2 feet higher than the next step. But that's the top. But I think this will go a long way to start to obscure that. The other thing that we did in terms of research is I knew that I had already found out a while back that these can't be within 5 feet of the property line. and it ain't anywhere near 5 feet of the property line.
5 or 10?
Well, it was 5. But then I asked about the setback from, like, vegetation or anything like that. And they did a search of NEPA, NFPA 30A, IFC 2015, and they did not find any defined setbacks from vegetation. He said there's one section in FPA 1537, I can share this with you if you like, that refers to the need of combustible liquid storage areas to be kept free of weeds, debris, and other materials.
There's a little section in urban forestry that talks about clearance distances and things like this. It's not even.
So even though we didn't quite make the direct connection, all I'm saying is we chose to set that back in addition. There's about 5 feet needed for the planting bed for these types of trees. And then we're tucked back another 10 feet in the spirit of the interest of that.
Yep.
And now you can see, this is where the much larger custom fabricated steel deck with we had a grillage on it. But again, now these guys that make the fence can make the same gates and hide the controllers. And I get some landscaping along here. that they
Well,
can.
have you meet with the gate guys, the manufacturers, because they're the guys who do the control.
Controls, I'm not concerned about. What we're going to talk about is access. So getting access to make the control. And there's a way we can do that with NOx. Where we get control that's installed.
Okay, that overrides the control.
There-
As long as we're.
You've seen
So we
this
just put
movie
it in
before,
the
and
bylaws.
the controller guy, it's been a while since I did one of these, but I expected 3 or 4 options. No, he's got like a dozen options of controllers and
Done a few gates.
announcers, swipes, da-da-da-da-da. And so we need to make sure we get on the same page with you. And then I also have to understand, obviously, I gotta make everybody happy. I gotta make you happy. I gotta make them happy. I gotta make them happy, because there's some places where I think, for instance, in retreating the salt to take it out, you know, some of these turning movements work, depending on which way you're coming down Ocean Ave. Some of these turning movements work a lot easier this way. So my point is, they're gonna end up having to circulate through here, I'm sure, during the winter months, just because of that function, which means everybody has to have an understanding here. And your understanding is obviously what happens if either one of these is an alarm. What do I do? How do you make sure I can get there? So we'll have to talk about all those things. The salt shed,
It's lower than this building, right?
I don't have
But
the,
it slopes back down in
I
this
understand.
direction.
I can find a drawing.
No, there's no building in front of it. You basically see the roof of the beach side.
It's an A-frame, right?
Well, in the front, there's a sidewalk there,
It's like a shed roof, yeah.
1 street high. But there is a sidewalk up there, and I can show you the drawing in a second. But the low end of this is only about 7.5 feet above, and then it sheds to that point. And then there's a gutter collection system and a downspout that's hidden behind some grillage in the front. And it's gonna go to, there's actually a roof drain system in here for pressure relief at the top of these footings and even this one. And I can show, I have the drawing.
That hasn't changed, that's basically the same as it was before. Yeah.
Yeah, let me just grab it for you.
I think there's a ramp and a screen wall up in the back of it.
What fix that thing instead of a small one? Easy enough to find. This is the lower level, which the plan that you were looking at a minute ago is the same level as this. These are the berths. There's the salt shed. And up at the street, this is the wall, and then you start to see that the shed is starting to work its way up. We have a handicap access ramp that comes comes this way to get access
Just
to
the
the
back wall of the salt shed is a brick wall, it looks like it's green wall. And then there's a very shallow base.
Yeah.
And this is a metal grillage that's on that surface of the retaining wall of the salt shed, and then you start to see this soaking up. And this is the elevation on the on the backside, where it's actually high and then going down. And I got a section here on
This shows the
313.
picture that that's the salt shed roof, though it's a very shallow.
This is
picture.
actually not, sorry, this is the vehicles are parked under this piece. The salt shed is this higher piece. But I can show you in this section on 313.
Salt shed sheds rainwater towards the
No,
Yeah, no, towards Revere Beach Boulevard, yeah.
High Point, High Point, says Ocean Ave.
Here's your paving down here at the plan level that we were looking at. And you can see it's not a very steep, it's not a very high thing. But it lets water, gets collected in a downspout that's hidden, and it drops down in here, and it'll go to a drain system that this thing is even connected to. But from the sidewalk is here, and where this is not, that sidewalk more or less comes over there, and that's about 7 feet. So it's not very much exposure in the front elevation.
So the rear wall will be a salt shed.
Yeah, this concrete wall is here, and it acts as a retaining wall and to hold up the framing, if you will, at that back end of the salt shed. So when you look at that elevation right there, it is on the same.
And I think there's a planting bed in front of that wall.
On the same as this one. We have a, right.
Is it concrete or brick, Jim?
Well, this is concrete, but there's a metal grill across the face that hides, we have two scuppers profile on the top of the concrete, so the water, no sense putting concrete and then putting pipes and flashing everything else, just collect the water and send it out to two scuppers that are hidden behind this. But all this stuff is just a metal grillage. It's the same grillage that we had previously thought about using on the other side at the big gates that I showed in these original drawings. This was the same grillage. This was the same grillage. We had it in pockets back here, and then we had it in front. And we're gonna keep that in the front. So this will be a nice appearing material. And we use the same material here. This is a custom-made gate, so they can get access coming out this way. That rises up right in this little seam right here. And there's a car slide for whoever needs it.
It's really all the work on the down areas, debris, a lot of stockpile materials. Other than salt shed.
You mean to the DCR for the
Yeah.
stuff? Yeah. Well, they've got another parking lot at the other end where they store stuff, right?
Your storage needs are very minimal. You've got the electric chair and stuff like that.
I'm thinking police debris.
Yeah, I gotta use your storage shed.
It's kind of funny. It's kind of funny you mentioned that because I got to show you an interesting note. We met with state building inspector, and he pointed out, if I can find it, I just found it. I had to find it now because I think you'll get a kick out of it also. That's it.
Yeah, there's a note on there that says that they were going to store
Oh, here you go.
debris and.
Pointed under the stair. This is just a metal pan stair, and this is a concrete wall, and that's an existing wall. So this metal pan stair comes up, and there's a landing and a gate. And I have to get rid of this note. Area to be used for storage of seawood and beach rakings.
The
under the stair. He says, "You're not really going to do that." And I said, "Good catch. No, we're not going to do that." So we have a whole round of things to satisfy him, to satisfy the state plumbing inspector, and we want to make sure we got here and showed you what we were up to. So.
There is a lot, I mean, they do use that storage lot on the car end, all right. Then they could potentially take some of the parking out of that. There's a lot. This side over here that they could put and stuff.
So these are duplicated.
Their vehicles, those are the different vehicles. This
Those
is
are
like a
vehicles,
compacted
these are two,
truck.
this is a compactor and this is a dumpster. This is a washdown area, right in that area. But these are just some of the small trucks or light trucks and whatnot that they park from time to time. And in the original drawings that were sent, a lot of that stuff was over in here, and they may well still do that. That just gets back to the relationship between the two, and whether in fact, that's still acceptable.
What are these again? One's a dumpster and one's what?
They're both waste handling, but one's a larger one and one's a smaller. I forget the number of yards. But
These are all vehicles, right?
right, these were
That's a compactor
vehicles,
truck.
and this is, these are the smaller vehicles.
Oh, you had that discussion with them, given the fact we have hotels and restaurants going across the street from that?
Which discussion? Oh, what?
Yeah, behind the store.
Yeah, they don't keep it for a long period of time. They
I'll just think back to the old facility, it was where you
Yeah, and what we're talking about now, instead of a wall along Ocean Ave, is landscape. So that's the visual barrier. Across the street, we've got 2 layers of parking before we get to the residential. But
just kind of across that bridge in the plaza,
yeah,
you look down, that's what we're looking at.
but not, what, debris in that lot?
Yeah.
No, that's not what they're saying. They're saying they're gonna use the same, the salt storage shed in the off-season for beach debris until they all.
Okay. Any other changes?
There are minor things being required by the plumbing inspector.
This was driven really by moving the fuel station, but actually these changes, which I think actually are more in keeping with the building, are going to lead to a VE savings for the city, which is pretty significant. So that's why we're part of the reason to.
You have revised civil plan or the rest of all the
This has taken us a while to get as far as we've got, as you say. The utility implications, the pole that is somewhere.
Because we will revise, we're going to revise all the drawings.
We have to
But we
revise.
wanted to put this in front of you before we go ahead and do it, and spend all that money revising the plans.
The critical path for us is excavation, which are just about to start, and laying perforated pipe for reducing water pressure and whatnot. But basically, all the foundations, these are big, heavy foundations. There's this entire wall on the front side of the building is frankly a very heavy wall with large footings. So it's the same for this thing. That's a pretty tall wall. So they really want to rock and roll. And they're anxious for us to get these drawings out as quickly as we can, showing this revision, because once they get started, they want to be able to come back. They can stop somewhere outside, but they really want to rock and roll, and they can finish the rest of it and do this on a later schedule.
We've actually started the demolition this week, and the site guys will be coming in a week on Friday, they'll be bringing the equipment in, so we want to just keep going with the whole thing if we can.
All right, I don't think there are any other questions.
There's actually a question, the walkway is there now,
That's police barracks
So that's
right here.
So that's what.
There's a little,
Buildings getting built on.
if you're looking at the view above, right now, there's a little raised element here. And these pair of
Yeah.
iconic, sort of portals.
Right.
And there's a big tree right in there. Everything, all that is being removed, and that ramp that comes down this way is removed. And there's a small building over here that's being taken out.
What's the current ownership of that right over there?
The DCR owns all of these parcels all the way along.
It's not a parcel,
DCR owns this
yeah,
all the way forward.
so that includes this. So this is also that parcel, like the house you guys talking about.
Yeah, I think it does include the whole thing.
Everything between Shan Avenue and Visual
Yep.
House, DCI.
Yeah,
So that this used to be someone's.
Yeah.
yeah.
So here's, this is going to extend further into.
DCR property, they basically own that whole island of property all the way along.
So the actual picture of the water lines here. Right.
Yeah, but we're aware of it, and we'll relocate it on the revised plans.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
So we're good to go, we'll,
Getting a city permit, state, we take the attorney.
Neil, yeah, and we'll work on the game piece as well, the Knox doesn't, that's, you know, I like mechanical solutions. We haven't.
So they're going to buy an entrance.
And 8M, what is that, that's a permit for to go near that,
Yeah.
okay,
So they have infrastructure in between them, I think it's 20 inch.
yeah,
It's just outside your property on the canal. Runs
good
the
to sidewalk,
sidewalk sort of.
yeah.
And so anytime you're crossing it or you're anywhere near it, they're going to want to have some involvement, I think.
Remember not to dig there on a Friday afternoon, that's what we usually do.
Okay, that concludes the site plan review committee meeting for September 18th.